Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu campaign. Welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 2, Episode 21. I am Travis, and I will be your keeper today. Before we get into it, let's have our investigators maybe give us a snapshot of their bedtime routine, because it's the end of another long day, and we'll start with you, Brandon.
So I'm playing Wallace Andrews, MD, and my bedtime routine would generally be to read whatever particular books I'm reading at the moment, which in this case happens to be the Book of Abramelin. And I would do that just a little bit longer than I should to get enough sleep, and then, stumble to bed and fall asleep.
I'm Justin. I'm playing Lance Monroe, and under normal circumstances, he'd do his journal and then read for a little bit in whatever arcane tome he happens to be looking at. Although tonight, I think after having his ribs broken, he will skip the reading part and go to bed a little bit early. Maybe have a glass of gin beforehand.
John playing James Whitmire. Usually his bedtime routine is pretty straightforward. Make sure all the doors and windows are locked up tight, as all valuables are put away, and then wake up every few hours thinking somebody's in the room with him, and cover all shiny objects so that God can't pop in and get him.
Okay, so the last scene we left off with was the Dark Hunter departing into its portal. This was a Dark Hunter summoned by none other than Johann Mueller, and he had given it a command to maim or kill quite a few people. So we will go directly into that, beginning with Mr. Monroe. So let's expand your house a little bit. So I know it's an apartment above your museum. There's a separate entrance, like a stair leading up to a higher floor. Is that fit with what we've established so far?
Yeah. Have you ever watched the Johnny Depp Sweeney Todd
movie? No.
But yeah, there was like the shop down below, and then on the side of the building there was a staircase that went up to where he had his shop, and I figured it was the same kind of thing, just with my home being on the second floor.
Got you. And does it connect down to the museum at any other point within your home?
No.
Okay, well, we will give it a rear entrance, though, just for emergency exits, if that ever comes up. I don't know why it would come up, but it could come up.
A fire escape of sorts.
Right. Let's begin, then, with a luck roll, Mr. Monroe.
All right. John, you sucked all the luck out of it. Okay, no on the luck.
Hey, but I failed mine, though.
Yeah, when you needed.
Yeah? Doesn't mean it's going to work when I want it to, though.
Okay, so you've been fighting the symptoms of, a broken rib, and as you know from injuries, in those first hours and days after the injury occurs are usually when the pain gets the worst. So you've been drinking quite a bit, and you've fallen asleep, and it's putting you into a deep sleep. So I will need a hard listen roll next.
Yeah, this isn't going to happen.
Jeez.
Almost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're close.
78 away.
Just use luck or push it.
Yeah.
I don't have enough luck. I don't think I've ever had that much luck.
Well, you definitely could push it, but I would not advise.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. My last push got my ribs broken.
Now one will end up in one of your lungs. It's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are actually sleeping quite good, and you get this feeling of weightlessness all of a sudden that rouses you from your slightly drunken stupor. And it takes you a minute to realize what's going on. I mean, you see, of course, you're in your bedroom or maybe on your sofa, wherever you passed out. Which do you prefer? Do you take yourself to bed?
Yeah, I would have taken myself to bed.
And you see that the room is lit by whatever lights you keep burning normally, but also there's like a blue flickering, and as you cast your eyes around, you see the open portal that you had seen forming in the Corbett house just a few hours earlier. And that feeling of weightlessness you have is because you are currently cradled in the arms of a dark hunter. Please give me a sanity roll. All right, so no sanity loss there. You had listened to Whitmire and Dr. Andrews describe this creature, and it's exactly as they described it, this half crustacean, half insectoid-like, half ape creature that stands tall, 7 or 8 feet perhaps, but it's just wordlessly holding you there and regarding you. It has you grasped pretty tightly in one of its limbs, and the other one is just sort of slowly moving towards your face. So I'll give you an action here. What would you like to do?
The only action I can really think of is using the father's imposed suggestion.
Okay.
To try and stop it.
Now, you do know from your recent use of that it does take a little bit more time than when you first had it.
Oh.
It goes beyond 1 round, so it might not be your best option. If it had been how it worked when you were down in Peru, perhaps it could have worked for you in this case, but maybe you don't have that much time.
Okay. I guess I'm just going to try and squirm my way out of his grasp and, yell, stop, stop, stop.
Okay, so I'm going to need a fighting brawl roll. This creature has quite a bit of size on you, though, and the way that impacts what you're going to do is it's going to give you penalty die, 1 for each difference in size, and I believe your build is a 0. Is that correct?
Build. Where is build?
It should be in your combat tab.
Yes, build is a 0.
So you need to make a fighting brawl roll with 2 penalty die.
I already failed. Does that matter?
Well, you could potentially luck out of it, so you have to fail worse. I'm sorry, if you roll from your combat tab, it won't let you do bonus penalty. It's broken for some reason. So you can go to your skill sheet and just roll it 2 more times and take the worst.
So
It looks like our worst is actually 30. It won't be 37. You just take the 10 spot. So you rolled a 30 versus a 25. What would you like to do? Spend some luck?
yeah, I guess I'll spend 5 luck and hopefully it'll be enough for me to get out of his grasp.
Yeah. So you give it a valiant effort, even though it pains you and your ribs, your broken rib or ribs. But there was something about the way you dress when you go to bed. This is the lucky part where you wear like a satin or a silk sleeper that allowed you to wriggle out of this thing's grasp. And you thud onto your bed. Now, you cast around your room, and you can see you can go through the kitchen to the door down that stairwell, or you could maybe go further into the house to that rear exit. What do you want to do from that point?
Is either way obstructed in any way by the creature or force me to go past it in order to get to him?
No, both ways are clear.
Then I guess I'll head towards the front door because that would probably be my first instinct.
Okay. So give me a constitution roll. I'm just setting up our starting speed of failure for the purposes of this thing pursuing you means that you remove 1 from your movement speed. I think we had said you were halved, right?
Yep.
Due to the major wound, which brought you down to 4. So your current move would be 3. And this thing's coming behind you. So let me set this up. You're able to make it out of your house and down this stairwell, which is a bit rickety. It's no problem for you. And you're out on the edge of the street before we begin. And you're casting about there. You can see that you could go either way down the walk. You could cross the street, but it's not too busy right now, although you can see there's a tram coming down the middle of the way. But you hear the footfalls of this giant creature in your house, and it comes out the front door and it tries to negotiate these stairs. It has quite a bit of weight on you, so if it fails a dex roll, it will be slowed down by these stairs, which it does. So it crashes through one of the the wooden boards that make up a step, and its leg goes through, and it spends a moment there trying to pry itself out of that.
Okay, I'm going to try and hobble my way across to the other side of the tram rails. And is this like one of those San Francisco trolleys where I might be able to grab onto it and jump on as it's passing?
Yeah, definitely. In ordinary circumstances, that would be possible without a roll for you, but given your injury and your panic state, you could flub it. So go ahead and give me a dex if you want to grab a hold of it.
Oh, dude, you just... All right. Holy crap. I was not expecting to succeed that.
Okay. So there you are in your silk, pajamas, and you get up on this trolley. You feel like a huge twinge in your chest as that rib pokes something or tears something maybe. But you're in there with just the one or two other passengers that are on the tram at the moment, and they don't give you any regard at all. But you can see that Dark Hunter has freed itself from its step, and it comes out to the street. But it's not fast enough to keep up with this tram as it makes, it picks up some speed. It starts going down a little bit of a hill, and it just pauses and regards it for a little while. And you see a portal open next to it as this blue light from the interdimensional space beyond flashes in the street, and it steps into it.
Okay. I'm going to try and position myself in a way that I can jump off of the train if I have to.
Okay. So yeah, the train levels out. It gets to the bottom of this hill, and it starts going at a more reasonable 10 to 15 miles an hour. And you smell the wood smoke, but with a hint of rot or something behind it, fill the tram car. And let's see, what else can we do? Yeah, we'll say that's all you smell, but you remember smelling that in the Corbett house not too long ago.
Yeah. Can I start preparing to cast Father's Imposed Suggestion when I smell that?
Yeah, are you targeting one of the people in the car or attempting to target the Dark Hunter that appears out of a portal?
Attempting to target the Dark Hunter.
Well, that one I'm going to say maybe not, because part of what's taking it a while is you have to sort of finesse your target over the course of those rounds. So you could definitely do that if you wanted to target one of the people riding the tram.
Yeah. Do either of the other two people look as if they're good fighters or strong in any way?
Well, give me a luck roll.
You're just making me push this over and over again, aren't you?
Nice. Yeah, we'll say there's a big burly longshoreman. He looks to be a little bit drunk, but he's sort of softly mumbling to himself.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try and use Father's Imposed Suggestion on him.
Okay. So yeah, you're able to finish.
One other question.
Yeah.
Did the 4 magic points that I had lost earlier, did I recover those during my evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When did you lose them precisely? Do you remember? Was it from your dream the night before?
I believe so.
Yeah. So you should be at full MP.
Yeah, I can't remember anything else that happened during the day.
Okay. So yeah, you're, so the way you've set up the spells, you actually do have to be talking, to them. So you kind of would hobble your way next to him and start saying something. And he, seems to be a pretty cheerful drunk, and he's listening to what you're saying. So what suggestion are you going to give him?
To protect me.
Okay. So you will need to pass a regular power roll.
Okay. All right.
Congratulations with a hard success. Okay, so yeah, he's like, you don't have to worry about nothing. I can tell you're a good guy, and I'm going to watch your back. So he's going on about that. And you see that portal begin to form. It's just a bead right in the middle of this moving train car. And it takes, about a round in game terms before it's big enough for the Dark Hunter to step out of. And this drunk doesn't see the creature yet, but you hear some shocked gasps and one scream from the other passengers.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and give you an action as it steps out.
Yeah, I'll tell the guy to protect me, and I will head towards the opposite end of the car.
Okay.
And get ready to exit the trolley.
Okay. So you're poised there at the opposite end of the car, getting ready to exit, and you had commanded the longshoreman to protect you, and he stands up and he sort of looks around and sees this thing. So he passed his. sanity roll, didn't lose any sanity, and go fleeing into the night. And
That's drunk luck right there.
right?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what your problem is, but
Yeah, he's hey, listen, we don't want any problems here. We're just trying to get home, he says to the 8-foot tall, half crustacean, half ape, half insectoid-like thing. And he puts his mitts up and advances towards it. Now, the Dark Hunter sees that he has to get past this man to get to you, and he goes to try to pick him up and throw him out of the way. Goodness. And in this case, your guardian tried to swing on him, and so the success goes to him, actually. So yeah, he connects with this Dark Hunter's chin. He kind of does like a little hop on the uppercut he throws up at him, but you can see that the thing's head just sort of tilts to one side with the force of the blow, but then slowly turns back to regard the man. It seemed to not do any long-lasting damage. What did you want to do, Mr. Monroe?
So I'm guessing this trolley is something that I've used before. Do I know where it goes? Is there... I kind of want to keep an eye out for any like police officers on the corner or anything like that.
Yeah, give me a spot hidden.
See, these are the times where my skills are just not quite up to... Oh, yes, I'll spend the luck. So 4 more luck to have that success.
Yeah, so this tram is running south, kind of towards where the Boston Commons is, although you're a few blocks distance from it yet. And you do spot the distinctive policeman's outfit walking down the street, and the other passengers that were on this tram at this time are bailing off where they can, sort of shouting different things. But yeah, you spot that policeman there, but you're still on the tram. You can still do something if you'd like.
No, I'm going to try and jump off to get to the policeman.
Okay. Let's do the dex roll again.
Yeah, that was a bad failure.
Okay, so you're still able to get off. Oh, wait. So it works a little different this way. Like I'm not, you don't take any wounds unless you decide to push it. So you're either just going to be stuck on here, or you're going to push it and maybe stumble and do a little damage to yourself.
I'm going to have to push it.
Okay. Always push.
That was a lucky one.
Okay, so you leap off this trolley. You see that policeman is across the road, walking in front of some storefronts. He's kind of looking at the other people that are running from the tram, wondering what they're shouting about at this moment. But let's see
I'll
what
I'll be running towards him and calling out to him as I jump off.
Okay. All right. So even from, you're maybe 15 feet away from this tram by now, you hear like a sickening crunch and a splatter like paint hitting the steel floor of that tram, and a grunt of pain, and a body hitting the same floor. And then this thing attempts to jump out of the tram in pursuit of you.
Yes.
But it stumbles there in the road, gets back to its feet, and is just right behind you. All it has to do is go maybe 20 feet to get to you. So now back to you. You're calling to this policeman. Let's see. So he sees this Dark Hunter behind you. We'll try a power roll for him.
Me do a power roll?
No, we'll see how your police officer does. So yeah, he's like, what in the blue blazes is that? But he holds it together and goes for his service pistol as you're running up, crying out frantically. But you have an action.
Yeah.
Well, let me just, so you have, you're about 15 feet from the front of a diner where you can see, it's like a all-night diner. You can see maybe 3 people in there drinking coffee or eating some small morsel. There's an alley next to that you could go into, or you could just continue on down the sidewalk if you want to keep running.
Do I see any vehicles that I might be able to jump into?
Yeah, there's many parked vehicles along the side of the road.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go past the officer if I can, and be checking doors to see if there are any open ones.
Okay. Well, given the amount of vehicles there are, I'm going to say it's a foregone conclusion that you'll find one that is unlocked. But let's see, do they have keys? Didn't we research this not too long ago? Or were they all just crank started?
I thought they had keys back then.
Okay, so let's do yet another luck roll for the car that you pick to determine if you'll be able to get it going. Because if I remember right, if close.
Yeah.
Okay, so the initial one you pick, you run down a ways, you find one that's unlocked, but you realize that you're not going to be able to crank it without the key in it. Because I think, if I remember my research correctly, it was kind of like the key fobs we have nowadays where your car won't start unless it detects the key fob. Only it was the physical key. You put it in and then you could operate the crank. So that's where we'll say you're at the end of your turn. So you're like, how do you respond to that frustration of finding a car and not being able to start it?
I'm just in kind of a desperate panic to get away right now. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that the police officer firing at it will distract it long enough to keep it off my back.
Well, yeah, let's see how the police officer does. He's not fully panicked, but he is in a bit of one. So we gonna fire 3 shots, but he's in point blank range with that thing, so there'll be no penalty. Looks like he got an extreme success on one of them.
Are we supposed to be able to see these?
Oh, sorry, I did it not. I had it on whisper. So he rolled a 6, 76, and a 66. So one of his shots was an extreme success.
All right.
So he rolled 6, and he also adds it to the max possible damage, which is 12. So he does 18, this Dark Hunter. But as you know, it has these thick plates, almost metal-like plates of armor. But this black blood or fluid squirts out onto the police officer when he fires that shot into him. So he did injure him in some way. And in response, the Dark Hunter attempts to kill the man. And of course he does. So yeah, he just takes, he gets shot. And as I've described, these Dark Hunters have sort of like a set of pincers that almost hang down, to their ankles. And he reaches it forward and just neatly clips the man's head off. And it goes rolling across the street. So you kind of see that out of your, while you're looking around trying to see what's going to happen. And he advances towards you, closing the distance again. What are you going to do, Mr. Monroe? So you're in this car. You couldn't get it to start.
So this is kind of where I want to use my Mr. Merriweather's, luck thingy.
Okay. Your lifeline?
Yeah.
Did you want to... Now, ordinarily, you can't use it to alter the luck roll, if I'm not mistaken. Find where that's at.
No, but I'll either need Finn McCracken to show up or have some sort of knowledge about the Dark Hunter that may give me a chance against it.
Well, I'll say there's no new knowledge that's going to help you. What you'll need is somebody with a powerful weapon and the ability to use it to help you think. So maybe Finn McCracken might be the best opportunity for you.
Yeah. Either that or, someone just run it over with a truck. But
yeah, we could go that way if you want.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay.
Like if the trolley, like if the conductor jumped off the trolley and, we had somehow gotten ahead of it and it hit him as it was coming towards me or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with this truck idea. So it's clipped that police officer's head off and it walks into the road trying to advance towards where you are in the car. And you can see a set of headlamps on a bigger truck coming behind it. And you hear the horn start blaring that it needs to get out of the road. But it's like too late. It seemed like the driver picked up that this huge thing was in the street. It was walking through a shadowy area, so it didn't become visible until it was right within the headlamps. And he starts blaring on the horn, but he can't swerve in time. They don't have the steering. It's a heavier vehicle. And it slams into this Dark Hunter, and you see the form of the extra-dimensional entity go underneath the grill of the truck, and it gets wrapped up in one of the tires and then under the second one, and this truck driver screeches to a halt, and he gets out, and he's like, what in God's name was that? But you see the portal form next to it, a new bead grow, and it grows into that full size, but this is as Dr. Andrews and Whitmire had described, it starts to have a gravity effect where it's sucking things into it. So at first it's pulling in smaller items. What would you like to do, Monroe?
I will try and crawl out the side of the car that's opposite from the event horizon.
Right.
And try and make my way into a building nearby. If that restaurant is still there, then try and go in there and push my way towards the back of the restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, so you walk in, you get some odd looks because you're out in your pajamas, and you are greeted by the cook slash proprietor who's behind there working at a grill, and he asks what he can get for you. You can see that there's a door beyond that into, maybe a storeroom or something that goes deeper into the building. Did you just want to hang out here in the eatery part or press forward?
I'll tell him that a police officer was just killed. We need to call the police station, and
Okay.
kind of push my way towards the back.
What are you talking about? I don't got a phone in here. You got to go down. And he mentions, some corner store that's a block distant or something like that. But his voice fades as you push into the back, and you hear him. The last thing he says is, he's like, "Hey, you can't go back there." But you hear this horrible rending of metal as that truck is pulled into an opening much smaller than it. And then you hear a scream from a man, and then that's clipped off too. And then all is silent. And by that time, you can push through the storeroom out another door into that alley I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try and gather my senses and, I don't know, head, well, for now I'll just keep fleeing.
Okay. Okay, so you flee for a little bit, and eventually, the adrenaline stops coursing through you. You don't hear any sounds of pursuit. You do hear the sounds of police sirens pick up after a few minutes, but then even that too fades, and eventually you realize you can't really run any further or move any further for that matter, so you sit down on a bench to catch your breath. What is your plan from that point?
Head to wherever Dr. Andrews is.
Okay. So, Dr. Andrews, did you have some idea about the apartment you were staying in?
No, I just figured it was a simple, room with maybe a washroom, bathroom, whatever they called it.
Was this a hotel or something that maybe you
Yeah.
owned? Okay.
No, hotel. Yeah, hotel.
All right.
Well,
So, he was staying in that place you had recommended to Mueller. It was called the North End Inn. And that's not too distant. It's some few blocks from here in Monroe.
Okay.
It would be a struggle to make it on foot in your current condition. I will say you make it. So yeah, it's just by the time you get there, you're flagging. It feels like, you have that taste of blood in your mouth. It feels like maybe you might have done yourself further injury. You're not sure. You keep checking for blood because that's what it feels like, but you don't see it. But eventually you come into the North End Inn, and you think he was in room 6. You're pretty sure that's what he said. And you go to that and you knock on the door. So, Dr. Andrews, you're kind of nodding off as you do when you're reading, and your head kind of snaps up when you hear a knock at your door.
and what time is it?
You would put it at just past midnight.
Okay. Yeah, so then I'll stand up and stumble over to the door, and I'll open it. Darkness. Nothing more.
So, what do you look like, Mr. Monroe?
Yeah, well, I think we decided that I have a satin bedclothes, so yeah, I'm standing there just in my pajamas, probably arm like wrapped around my chest, leaning over, breathing heavily, with probably a wild, crazy look in my eyes.
Yeah, you can see the dark spots, at the neckline and underneath the armpits, like he's been sweating profusely. But there you guys are.
Good God, Monroe, what's happened to you? Come in quickly. And I'll just pull him in and close the door.
Oh, we're in great danger. I had to make sure you were okay.
Yes,
One of those hunter things, the things that you fought before. It came for me in my home.
Oh, my goodness. Come to the bed. I'll get him over to the bed so I can lay him down and take a look at him.
Okay.
And see if what injuries he's dealing with here. But first, I'll lock my door.
All right. So you go ahead.
So I'll start laying out everything that happened, from the thing showing up in my house to it murdering the guy on the trolley, to ripping the head off the police officer, and my good fortune that that a truck ran it over.
Are you sure it was still chasing you?
I don't know if it survived the truck. There was a portal, and then everything got sucked in, and then there's Yeah, I didn't stay around to watch to make sure it was dead.
Okay, well, let's take a look at you and make sure you don't need to be hospitalized.
Yeah, he looks good. You can go ahead and throw your medicine roll out there. Suppose we should do that part first. Yeah, so he looks good. By the state he is in, you expected he had probably done himself further injury, but he's held together. Your wrapping's done the trick, and maybe he had that looseness of being a little bit drunk, so he didn't hurt himself too much, but he is exhausted, and you recommend a good night's sleep, that's for sure.
Yeah, so where did the Dark Hunter come from? Like, how did he find you?
I don't know. There was a hole in my bedroom, and I woke up and it was picking me up and reaching for my face.
So somebody must be. What, didn't they have to be summoned, like through a ritual?
Yes.
So who would be performing these rituals?
Well, either we have angered the consortium with our rescue of the lawyer, or someone else has joined the game. I saw one yesterday as well. When we went to return Corbett's journals to the house, one appeared in the house, although it didn't follow us.
Yeah, that's right. That's what had happened with the two men that got out of the car, like going backwards or something.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you look like you're going to be fine, but you definitely need some rest. So get some sleep, and I will keep watch. And then in the morning, we'll have to see if we can figure out what other people are saying about last night's events.
Do you have weapons here?
Yeah, I do. So I would have my rifle and my machete and that shotgun that I bought now would all be here.
All right. Do you have something I can arm myself with?
Yeah. Do you want the shotgun? Or the rifle?
Whichever you think I could fire in my condition without injuring myself further.
Yeah, probably better be the shotgun then.
Okay, so the plan then is for Monroe to go to sleep while you keep watch, Dr. Andrews?
Yeah, so I'll make sure the door's locked up good, and then I'll sit in the chair and have my rifle on my lap in case somebody breaks in.
Okay, so Whitmire, when we last left off, you had said you were going back to your hotel room to turn in for the night. Do you do any book reading or anything like that? How's your bedtime go?
No, I usually don't. I will stay up a little bit in the dark, just listening for anything until it eventually puts me to sleep.
Yeah, and some of the thoughts that were entering your head was a conversation you had with Professor Mueller about when you had asked him about the Dreamlands or this area he described as the Dreamlands, when you said you had met Nosht and Common Thaw and then traveled through a dark, woody terrain. And he had said, well, now that you've been there, you should just be able to will yourself there. So if you look at your additional skills, you should have a couple of new skills, one called Dreaming and one called Dream Lore.
Yes.
If you'd like to attempt to do as Professor Mueller suggested, you would need a successful dreaming roll. Otherwise, you can just go to sleep.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Go for it. Oh.
Hard success. Maybe Justin was right.
All right. So you drift off to sleep, and with that hard success, while you're contemplating, somebody can say, well, you just can will yourself there, or you just focus on being back there. But, what does that actually mean? What are the practical steps that one takes? And before you know it, you find yourself waking, slumped in the hollow between two roots extending from this great gnarled tree, and you're back in this dark forest that you remember from the previous night. Although you don't know where you are in the dark forest, but there you are.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask. Is am I on the edge of it again, overlooking that town, or?
No,
but it seems like I'm surrounded by the forest completely again.
Yeah.
All right, so first thing I'll do is check my pockets, see if I have either food, water, or that knife.
So yeah, you have all those items that were given to you by the two priests. So that was the food and the water, the knife. You're wearing the clothes as you had imagined them, which I forget quite what they were. What did you imagine?
As I believe that it was just a really nice suit.
Okay. And then you also have that crystalline wool that they claimed was manna and that it was edible, which you had tried on the previous night, and it was very tasty, and it seemed to nourish you in a way beyond just simple satiation of hunger. But yeah, you look around these woods and you find that you're deep in them again, and you can hear the chittering or that odd sound you know belongs to those strange rodent-like creatures, although you don't see any at the moment.
Okay. So, remembering what happened last time, I'll, and now that I know that I have everything I'm gonna need, I'll start pushing through. Now, am I on like a trail, or is there a trail nearby, or am I just pushing through trees?
Give me a spot hidden roll. Yeah, so you are able to pick out one of these. It's not even quite a game trail. It's just sort of a way, like an opening where the trees aren't, grown so close together that it chokes out any attempt to travel forward. But yeah, you do see one of those. It's tough to get a sense of direction underneath the canopy, but it seems to run in either direction.
Okay. Can I try would that be like a navigate, maybe?
Sure.
To get a better sense of direction?
Yeah, it would, because of the canopy being totally closed off, it's difficult for you to get a sense of it. So we'll put it at a hard navigate.
Okay. Would I also be able to use this to try to remember which direction I had traveled last time?
Yeah. You could discern which way would come back to the steps to deeper slumber, and which way would exit the forest as you did last time.
Nope.
Okay, so it's just a crapshoot. You got to pick one way or the other. Well, I can say as you step to it, it would be the path goes off to your right, although it twists around, or you can go off to your left.
Well, I think everybody knows that I'll take the right way.
Okay, so you travel for a while, and the trees begin to become naturally or unnaturally thick, and this fungus that's lighting the area grows thinner, so it gets darker, and the trees are like dead or dying. You can look off in the distance and you can see by this fading light that they're gnarled and they're free of vegetation, although you get the sense that there's like a mountain, or maybe not a mountain, but a cliff face just ahead, although it's very smooth, and there's something you think carved into it, but you can't really pick out what it is from this distance.
Okay. I'll continue forward then, making my way through the dead trees and underbrush.
Okay. As you advance, you realize you're running out of light. Like it gets so dim that you can't make up anything. But as I said, this light is coming from fungus that's just growing on the trees or on the ground. So you can rip off like a handful of it, and you'd have like enough light, like one of those little glow sticks or something like that.
So, seeing as how this is a dream, I'm going to try and will light into existence.
Oh, okay. Give me your dreaming roll.
Nope, that didn't happen. All right, so yeah, what happens if I push it though? It's scary in a dream.
Summon something horrible?
Well, you think about all the errant thoughts that enter your head, especially when you're alone in a dark forest. If your mind can fabricate stuff into reality, then could your errant thoughts, your deepest fears, fabricate something into reality?
Yeah,
That could be a potential threat.
I'll try and suppress those thoughts as quickly as possible and just grab some fungus.
Yeah, so when you get to this cliff, this smooth stone cliff with your handful of fungus, and you hold it up and you can see there's some runes carved into it. And by this point, I don't need a roll. You definitely recognize that strange Aklo language. But when you stand at the base of it, you realize that you're not at a cliff, but you're at a large standing stone. It's so big that it just looked like a natural part of the terrain. You're just at the base of one big standing stone.
Does it have anything on it? Like, I'll move around it and look at it and see if it has anything on it.
Yeah, besides the runes, it doesn't have anything else on it. You can kind of think of like the Stonehenge type stones. As you traverse down, we'll say like maybe 40 feet, you come to the end of one, and there's, like a 6-foot gap that you can move inside this stone circle, but then the next stone begins.
Can I make out what the runes say?
Well, you would have a 1% chance. So you can throw a D100 out there for me.
This is where I expect him to get it.
It's pretty close. What's your
Not too far.
What's your Cthulhu Mythos knowledge or rating?
A 10.
10. So I will
Can I
say
use 1 luck?
You may.
That would do it, right?
Yeah. So it would succeed at Cthulhu Mythos, so you're not able to translate the language, but you realize that the runes you're looking at are very similar in pattern to what was on the golden band or in the base of the pyramid, and you knew that those were wards inscribed by people to keep Father inside of the pyramid. So whatever these stones are doing, they're inscribed with the same sort of protective warding.
All right. I'll quickly pull my hand away from it and start stumbling backwards and just push myself back into that forest then.
And go the opposite way?
Yeah, like as quickly as I can navigate it.
Yeah, it's playing in coming out of your subconscious is the idea, the size of these stones, and if they are warding, if they're protecting something that's on the inside, what could it be? But the stones fade behind you and the thoughts fade behind you. And every now and then you hear a little skitter up in the branches, but none of those strange creatures make an appearance. And as you travel in the opposite direction, you do come to the edge of the wood, as you did last time. And sorry,
is it that village again?
Yeah, you see it. It's like you're in a different position, relative to the village. So you would be like, when you get out and you can see the sky and everything, if this place has the cardinal directions that in the same orientation as where you come from, then you would think it's off to the southwest, though now, this time. But as you scan around behind you, you see there's a piece of parchment paper that's been pounded into the tree with a nail.
Okay. I'll go and examine that.
So yeah, it's old and faded, and here's what it looks like. So the note's pretty simple. It just reads, "I know you are probably confused, Nicholas. Try not to be. You are in the enchanted wood. Go straight ahead from the gate. Do not turn left nor right, and do not listen to the chirps and whispers you will hear. Soon you will be in the open lands of the dream. You'll soon find a road or a cottage and be able to ask for directions to the town of Ulthar, where I await you." And it's simply signed, "A friend of a friend."
Okay. As I will... So, looking back at the village, do I see a gate?
Not around the village. What you see here is like spread out farms and cottages, but it's not enclosed in a wall or a gate or anything like that.
Okay. As I'll peer back into the enchanted woods then.
Okay. Yeah, you can see the trail that you exited. Although you do notice something now at the base of the tree, a discarded bag that has a blade, and you can barely make it out. It's bread that's pretty much gone to dust, right? Like when you open the bag and your hand touches the loaf, which is this grayish bread shape, it just kind of crumbles almost instantly, and then that knife is rusted.
Okay. Does it have the same glyphs on it that mine did?
Right. So maybe somebody had carried this, possibly the note, to this point and left it here for whatever reason.
Okay. So, well, I know there's no gate in the back the way that I came.
Something that does register in your memory is that when you came down the steps to deeper slumber, you did exit into on your first visit here, you exited a gate into the enchanted wood.
Okay. So, well, maybe this is Ulthar. So I'll turn around and start heading towards the village.
Okay. So yeah, you start making your way across this field. There is something, some large shape that's diffused in the distance south of this village. And it takes a moment for you to realize that what you're looking at is one enormous peak. It's bigger than anything you've seen on Earth in photograph or in real life. It's so enormous and so singular, one singular peak, that it didn't register as, like one giant mountain at first. But around its foothills is a blue river. And we'll pause with you there as you're walking across the field and get a power roll from Mr. Monroe.
Okay. Boom.
Oh. All right, Mr. Monroe, you wake in a flat stretch of land before a windmill with a mound beyond that. What do you do?
So do my ribs still feel broken?
At first, you have that twinge of pain, but when you go to, run your hands over your body, you don't really feel any pain. It was almost, It was psychosomatic at first.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start pushing my way into the cavern again.
All right, roll a d6 for me. Okay, so when you go into this burial mound, as you've become accustomed to, there's somebody in there just sort of standing there looking at one of the walls as though the most interesting thing in the world is happening there. And in this particular case, the person standing there is a very large Italian man.
Oh, I was hoping it was Lamar, but the cannibal will work too.
So yeah, they seem to be in that kind of fugue state where they're not totally aware. In the past, they didn't really come out of it until you drew attention to yourself or you called to them.
I'm going to try and slip past him.
Oh, wise choice. Okay.
Yeah. What do you want me to roll?
No, you don't even have to roll anything. He's
okay.
He's taken over.
As long as I don't disturb him, then
right. Yeah.
He's occupied. Okay.
He's just sort of slightly swaying there. Not his eyes are unfocused, but he doesn't seem to react to you as you walk past him and down and deeper into the cavern system that lies beyond. So, fast forward in a little bit here, you go through the entry hall into that larger hall, the Hall of History as you've come to know it, where you see this story of these serpent folk laid out before you and where they were driven underground by early humans. And you come to that place that we can call the pitch, for lack of a better word, but where all these points come to a vertical descent that goes deeper. And here's where you've begun to run into trouble. In the past, you've tried to jump down, in which you broke your legs and woke up, and then you tried to go another direction in which you ran into some ancestors of humans that beat you and Wayne Nichols to death, or at least to death in the dream. You don't have too many more options to go off from here, but there are a few more ways you can try.
All right. Yeah, I guess I'll try one of the other passages then.
Okay. All right. So this passage has the lichen that lights everything up, and although you don't see those early hominid drawings on the wall, thankfully, although you do hear sort of a soft moaning sound coming as you travel further down it, along with that repeating pattern, that thrumming, this sort of bass thrumming that's going on all throughout the complex, where it goes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that 4 is held for an extended amount of time. But once again, you do come to a sudden drop that you would have to navigate if you want to go any further.
Okay. As I travel, I'm going to turn around and head back and try a different path again. And I'm going to try and keep an eye out for anything I might be able to carry with me that I could use to help me get down in any way, shape, or form. If there are any vines or anything, those kinds of things.
Okay. So let's do another power roll on this one. Okay. So yeah, you backtrack a little bit and you do find some vines, or they're kind of like roots that you could pull out of the earth that you think might hold you. But the problem is you'd have to sever them somehow. They don't just pull easily free.
Okay. I'll check my pockets and, see if I have anything on me that I could use to cut it, or not having that, try and find a sharp rock.
Okay. What do you normally carry on you?
Really not much. Just
okay.
Probably my lighter and wallet and a bunch of other stuff.
All right. Well, we'll say you can find a sharp enough rock. It just takes some muscle and time to sever a few vines, but you think you got a few, or these roots, you think you have a few. If you can twist them together, you might be able to make a rope that would give you 1 bonus die on a climb roll to get down.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that and head back to that first main pit.
Okay. So yeah, you can with that and get part of the way down. To your disappointment, it doesn't go the full distance, but it will give you a bonus die on your climb roll.
All right, here we go. Bonus die. Oh, no.
46 versus 20. You want to push it? You just get part of the way down, and you realize you don't quite have the skill, so you clamber up to the top. So without pushing it, you're not risking any fall or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll climb down to the bottom and try and do a jump again.
Okay.
See, this is why I have so few skill ups.
All right, go for it.
All right.
Well, as it is a pushed roll, we can no longer use luck, but you did, you were partially down, so you don't take as much damage. You just take a d6.
All right. Good Lord. Max damage. I falling in any way, shape, or form, it seems to be Lance Monroe's Achilles heel.
Yeah, so that does affect you in the way of a major wound in this place that you go. So you do fall again, and once again you hear, some sound that you're not supposed to hear as your left ankle sort of twists underneath you when you try to land on it, and you just collide to your side and get the wind knocked out of you. When you get your senses back, you realize you can't quite stand on that ankle. I mean, you can still traverse forward, but you can't quite, put your weight on it.
Okay. It may be starting to dawn on me that this is a dream. And do you think I may have read anything about lucid dreaming where you can control the dream?
You may have, but your ability to do that would be dependent on a successful Cthulhu Mythos spell.
Okay. I could give it a shot, though, right?
Yeah.
That's about as far away as you can get.
Yeah, nothing has touched on this dream state that you're in or spoken in any way about it, but you are at the bottom of that pitch, so you can move forward, however slowly.
All right. Yeah, I'll hobble my way forward.
Okay. So the passage opens into a wide grotto where none of this phosphorescent lichen grows. Crystal deposits on the walls do glitter with some inner light, however. The ceiling's apex is somewhere out of sight. You've lost track of it. You can't see it in any of the light. And spreading across the far wall is a bizarre twisted structure fashioned from interlaced bronze pipes and studded with crystals of various sizes and colors. The pipes pierce the walls in numerous places, while the other ends ultimately end in spikes. There's a rock formation 20 feet in front of it, carved into a sort of a chair, you think? Although its curving seat and back don't really look like they'd be comfortable for humans.
Okay.
And you can see on top of those spikes, there's something on them, though you're not sure what it is.
I'll kind of move slowly around the outside of the wall, kind of keep taking a look at the crystals, see what I can understand about them. And when I get to a good point, then I'll start making my way towards the chair.
Okay. So as I have described earlier, you heard this sort of moaning sort of sound happen every now and then. And when you approach to this chair, it sort of picks up in this sort of like this chorus of moaning. And you can make out that what's on top of these spikes is the heads of those hominids that had beaten you to death earlier. There's one on each of these spikes, and there's some sort of air coming out of this pipe system that passes up through the spikes and out the mouths of these moaning heads. May I have a sanity roll, please?
So in other words, it's like a pipe organ.
Right. Okay. So you only lose 1 point from that.
My job as sanity tank is paying off.
Now, besides that, you're not really sure what to make of that, although you do see that the passage does carry on from there.
Okay. And as I head towards that throne,
that's when they kind of pick up. It's almost like it was the context of you moving towards that throne that made them rise in this chorus.
Okay, I'll take a step back, and then do they quiet down?
Yeah. The whispering song that issues forth, it almost has a kind of macabre beauty to it, strangely attractive.
Well, I'll be drawn even closer then.
Yeah, so...
But I'm going to try and cover my ears a little bit so it's not quite as jarring.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you hear the chorus pick up, not quite reaching a crescendo as you stand right before this stone chair, but it's sort of held there in a harmonious state.
Okay. So is the chair of a size where I could actually sit on it, or is it like giant, or...
Yes.
Or
it just doesn't look... No, it's not giant. It just doesn't look like it's
made for a human.
fashioned for a human, yeah.
Yeah. Are there any kind of markings or anything on it?
No.
Okay. I'm going to try sitting in it and see what the heads do.
Okay. So yeah, you sit on it, and the singing grows much louder and more complex now. You know, the harmonies are like more voices are joining into it from these severed heads. And it's a very alien experience. But as you sit there, your vision sort of fills with, well, it's very difficult to describe. It's basically, it looks like you're looking at a bunch of text that's just hovering before you in these strange and arcane symbols, not Aklo, as you've come to recognize. And it's difficult to determine what this text is trying to communicate to you because you can't read it. Although you do recognize that whatever this text is, it is using the Arabic numbering system. So you do occasionally, pick out a number that you recognize. Do you give me a education roll or a chemistry roll if you have it?
Chemistry, I do. Education.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, so so it has these different groups of, strange symbols, but there are some diagrams that are floating underneath of them. And it almost kind of looks like charts, but you realize that what you're looking at is molecule diagrams. But, it's been a long time since you took anything in chemistry, so you have no understanding of which molecules they represent. And though you do get a sense that whatever's being tracked here seems to be it's measuring these quantities or these molecules in their quantity across time.
Okay. Well, I guess... And I don't wake up while sitting there listening to this and having these visions.
Well, it is potentially worth one more point of sanity loss, so give me another sanity roll. But no, you don't. It's just fascinating. You're not, it's very difficult for you to grasp on an analog of what this is like.
Yeah.
It seems like when you lift your hands because they're floating in front of you, when you touch these symbols, they do seem to react to you in some way, like they're floating in this sort of green wispy lettering. When your hand touches one of them, they turn red, but they don't like change or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep kind of messing with it and trying to remember what these chemicals look like so that I might be able to look them up when I wake up.
Right. You see when your hand touches at these charts where it's sort of measuring it, like your finger will point onto a place on the line, and it'll move like a dot back to that point, and it'll have the number, we'll just say 14651. And then when you move it in one direction, that number seems to count up. If you move it back, it counts down.
Okay.
And whatever they're measuring, these molecules, they seem to be increasing as the number increases.
Okay. And so, yeah, I'll try and get a good image of the molecule in my mind so that I can look it up when I wake up. And once I feel I've got a good grasp of everything and I don't seem to be gaining any more insight, then I'll stand up out of the chair.
Okay. So, yeah, for that, we'll pause with you. And actually, in both your case and Mr. Whitmire's case, you start walking across this field, John, and, it's very scenic and peaceful, and you start to pick out, these strange creatures in that village up ahead and people that appear to be human. And just as you approach one, one of these human-appearing people lifts a hand to you in greeting, but then that's when you're pulled out of the dream by waking up in your bed. And the same with you, Mr. Monroe. You're messing with these numbers, and then you wake in Dr. Andrews' room.
Okay.
So, yeah, Dr. Andrews, you're sitting there, and you see Mr. Monroe, wake up prop himself up on his elbows.
What time is it now?
So we'll say he naturally woke up around, just after sunrise. So you're looking at just before 7 o'clock.
Good morning. How do you feel?
I feel like my ribs are broken.
Yes.
A little bit better mentally after getting some rest. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching over me.
Of course.
Were there any incidents?
No. Nope. Quiet night.
It's good to hear.
But no doubt the town will be a flutter over the events last night. So perhaps we should go get some sustenance because you need to eat and try and find out what people are saying about what happened last night. If a policeman died, then surely that's made the news.
If you wouldn't mind accompanying me back to my home so I can get some decent clothing on before we go grab breakfast, I would greatly appreciate your company.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what's the plan then for today is to begin with your standing meet at O'Lafferty's for breakfast. Are you going to take part in that as well, Whitmire?
Yeah.
So is there anything you wanted to do, John, before you head towards the restaurant?
How long do I have?
Like an hour or two.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about checking on the mask. There was that dream last night, plus the guys that were here in town. I just want to make sure that it's still there.
If I remember right, did you leave it back in New York in a safe place, or did you bring it with you? I can't remember.
No, I had left it in New York, because I don't know if I have enough time to go do that, though.
You would be gone for a little while. I'm not sure what the journey from Massachusetts to New York is. I know they're pretty crammed together up there, but you would be gone for the entire day, I'm sure.
Yeah, as I just don't think that I'd have time to go out there. I'll go check out telegraphs though, or sorry, yeah, if there's been anything left for me in the lobby or in Monroe's shop.
Okay, yeah, you do have one. Well, you don't have one at the lobby, but if you're heading to Monroe's, we can say by luck you arrive when Dr. Andrews and Mr. Monroe arrive there to check for their own messages and get changed up.
Me still in my jammies.
Right. And there are quite a few telegrams there, actually.
Okay.
So for you, Mr. Whitmire, you have a message from Drew. He's just wondering how everything went. He never got the call to move in or anything like that. And he thanks you again for the tip on the tobacco shop.
Okay.
I was just checking in with you.
Yeah, I'll I guess if there's still a little bit of time before breakfast, I'll send a runner or a telegraph over to him, the nearest place, that says that we got the doctor out somehow. The
lawyer?
Or the lawyer, sorry, yeah. We got the lawyer out somehow. Because if I remember correctly, I wasn't involved in that, right?
No, you were with Monroe bashing the Corbett journals.
But,
okay.
Yeah, and then let him know that I'll still have his payment.
Okay. Also, there's a telegram from Dr. Call. This was in response to your inquiry about Wallace Bowers, the day in which he was committed to Danvers, and he has that information back for you. The telegram says he was committed on October 29th, 1920.
29th. Day was the Dooley murder?
It's thought to have occurred between sometime the night October 31st or early morning November 1st.
Oh, that makes it impossible for him to have done that.
Well, not impossible. I mean, these are on documents, as Whitmire could attest to. Documentation does have a way of disappearing. Just ask the Boston Police Department. Also, Dr. Andrews, there's a telegram that was sent to you by Betty Williams. This was in response to you asking for any information she had on the Porcellian members, friends of her boyfriend, Murrow Beckett. And she's like, yeah, I can tell you what I know. Would you like to meet somewhere?
Oh, right. But I think we've buttoned that up, haven't we? Like, we've got the names we need to put forward as the true...
Well, you have Wallace Bowers would be acceptable to the consortium. Monroe knows this. I'm not sure if you guys have had the opportunity to speak altogether on the matter. I think you did. Right. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we did.
it's just a matter of getting the court to turn its attention towards Wallace Bowers rather than the kid,
Right.
rather than Charlie Murphy.
Okay. Well, yeah, so then I guess I'll send a telegram back, saying that I would like to meet her
Okay.
so we
So-
can have that discussion.
What else do we have for the day?
I wanted to check on Mr. Clark in the hospital.
Okay. So yeah, we can assume we've gone on to O'Lafferty's and you guys are planning out your day. So let's get that all ordered out. Who's going where and doing what? We can start with you, Dr. Andrews.
Yeah, so I need to go to the hospital to check on Mr. Clark and see how he fares. And then Betty has responded to me, so I will need to meet with her soon to get information she has on the other members of the Porcellian Club if we're going to push any names forward to take Charlie's place.
Okay. And Mr. Monroe, what would you like to do? I also will remind you that you had asked Lance to gather a list of items that the strange lisping man would order every now and then.
Yeah, I'll want to stop back by his shop. You mean Lamar's shop? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Lamar, sorry. Yep. And so is that first on your agenda?
Yeah, that'll be first. I suppose I'd also like to go check on the lawyer to see, if things are still okay.
Okay. And what about you, Whitmire?
So this is still before breakfast, right?
No, well, we can forward to breakfast where you guys usually plot out your day unless there was a thing you needed to do.
Okay. Other than just replying to telegraphs, and I'm gonna check in on those kids that were watching the Great Knights, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
As I'm gonna check in on them, make sure that they're doing okay.
Okay. So you guys know what you're doing next. With this Wallace Bowers issue, you have one problem, and that he has a pretty rock solid alibi, at least if papers do show that he was committed before the murder of Dooley actually occurred.
Yeah.
To solve. Did you want to have a discussion about that?
Yeah, that's probably something we should talk about.
So you're saying you want me to break into a mental institution and swap out some documents? Is that what I'm here for?
I suppose that works.
That's what I'm hearing. So
if that doesn't work, we could make an attempt to contact the consortium to see if they can use some of their leverage to change the paperwork so that maybe he was committed the day after.
Well, do you have ins with anybody at the hospital who might be able to share that information? Or do you, Dr. Andrews?
I don't think we've established a contact at Danvers yet, so we could potentially do that with a successful psychoanalysis roll. You could do it with an extreme medicine roll, Dr. Andrews, or psychoanalysis, whichever is better.
And this is to determine what?
If you have a contact at Danvers State Hospital.
All right, we'll give it a shot. Let's see. No, I don't have a contact there.
Did you guys want to try your psychoanalysis? What does it begin at? 1?
Yep.
Nope.
Okay.
Although I could just use some luck.
Well, that would have been nice to have that critical. You only get the one or the other. But just a couple minutes at our end point here. Let's just do one more scene. We had a couple of people who wanted to check on the lawyer, so we'll just run that first. Was that Dr. Andrews and Mr. Monroe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you head down to the Boston General Hospital where you had dropped him off, or where Finn had dropped him off, and you wait a moment before they let you into the room to see him, where you can see that they have amputated his arm, or most of his arm, as there was really no way that they could save the portion that was, totally stripped of flesh and muscle. And he's kind of looking out the window of his room with a forlorn look, but he brightens a little bit when he sees you guys enter, and he does seem to be in a reasonable state, although you can tell he's pretty doped up. And it has this goofy smile, and he's like, "Oh, Dr. Andrews, Mr. Monroe, how are you? Are you there, Whitmire?" I guess not.
I don't think he came with us.
Okay, yeah.
No, I wasn't there. I was checking on the kids. as I wanted to make sure that they actually made it home and that they didn't get caught watching that house.
Right. Okay. So he greets you, asks you how you're doing, with a sort of slightly goofy look on his face.
Doing fine. I'm glad to see that you pulled through. I'm very sorry about the loss of your arm. You must understand there was nothing I could do.
No, that's okay. It's the strangest thing, though. I keep forgetting it's not there anymore. I'll go to scratch my leg or something and nothing happens. But thanks for getting me out of there, Doc.
Yes, do you remember what happened?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. I got picked up by these two guys when I was having lunch with Dr. Call, and they were holding me on this boat for a while. They wanted me to take a deal that they were going to have the prosecution make. They wanted me to have Charlie Murphy accept a plea bargain. He would plead guilty to second-degree murder, and the state would recommend confinement for life in a sanitarium due to Charlie's reduced mental faculties. And in return, they offered Antonello and Clark all legal dealings would fall under our firm for the Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, with the condition that we take that and nothing else. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Standard Oil?
Yeah, Standard Oil Company of New Jersey.
Who is it that owns that? Do we know? Was that William Murrow that owns that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really know much about it. I could have some of our legal aides look into it, but I have to say it's just kind of your guys' call here, but that's not a bad deal for Charlie Murphy. I mean, I understand if he's innocent, it's a bad deal, but you have to understand how these things work sometimes in Boston. He spends his life in a sanitarium where people can, care for someone like him. Not going to go to the electric chair.
Mm.
And I'm not just saying that because I would get a lot of work for my, my firm.
It's concerning, though, because we found the actual person who was responsible for Mr. Dooley's death.
Oh, did you? And who's that?
There's a young man in Danvers Sanitarium that apparently was a part of the murder. That,
in fact, he has admitted to it.
Well, we definitely won't have to take any plea bargain if you can get some sort of proof of this. Either his own confession. I know we set up that private investigator firm. If you're able to track something down or get his confession, I can submit it to the judge and they'll likely have this case dismissed.
I think we should be able to do that with our contact. The good Dr. Call. He has some contacts up at Danvers that might be able to help us with that.
I have to make one correction. Dr. Call's contacts were at Roxbury Sanitarium, not at Danvers.
Yeah, he's just at Danvers when he was sending us all those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I would need. If we took the plea bargain, once it's there, there's going to be a lot of, reason not to look at new evidence if it comes to light. So if that's something you guys want to do, you would have to move on it fast. As you know, this trial date's coming up pretty soon, at the beginning of next month. And right now I give Charlie Murphy a 50-50 shot, even if I throw everything I can at him.
Well, could you give us 1 week, and if we can't come up with something by then perhaps we should begin taking a look at the plea deal.
I am somewhat concerned at this negotiation strategy. They didn't hurt me. It wasn't them. It wasn't until later. Some people showed up. I don't know. I heard a couple of them talking in French, and there was one really big guy, and they came in with guns out, and there was just a short exchange between the two men that had taken me, and then bullets started flying everywhere. They had me tied up in a chair, and I rocked it and, threw myself to the side onto the ground. And when the gunfire stopped, it was all quiet, except I heard this, man, I will never forget it, this awful slurping, tearing, rending sound. I didn't know what I was hearing at first until I poked my head up and looked at one of the men was eating the corpse of one of these two men that had taken me, and that big Italian, he came up to me. I thought, he was going to punch me or something. I don't even know how to order my thoughts around it. I didn't feel any pain at first when he bit into my arm, the flesh of my forearm. It's the darndest thing. It's like it was so unreal it couldn't be happening. None of my nerves even picked up on it. But it did hit eventually, and he didn't care. He just sort of looked at me with this hungry look, and he just kept eating the flesh, and then I passed out. I woke up sometime later. I'd been freed from that chair, and I stumbled out and collapsed again. So, I'm a little worried about my safety. And he kind of starts giggling at the end of that. You can guess it's an effect of the opiates.
Well, you're in a safe place here, I'm willing to bet.
I thought I was in a safe place at that restaurant with Dr. Cole.
Very true.
Yeah. Do you have a place that you hole up for a while? A place you can hide?
Well, they seem to know particulars about me. I'm kind of worried they know where my home address is. I was thinking maybe the order, if I asked John Scott, maybe I could stay there. I know he says the apartments aren't complete. They're still getting those in place for members to stay at, but maybe he'll make an exception. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Yeah, it's certainly better than going back to your house and being alone.
Although, perhaps not using the order of John Scott would be a good idea, since that is a fairly high-profile place, and they may be able to get some answers out of people that are there. Do you have anyone an old friend perhaps, that they don't know about, that you might be able to contact?
No, I transplanted from back out west, so, I left my social circle behind. That's why I joined the order to begin with, to make new connections here. I took the job because I met Christian when he was vacationing out there, and, he was impressed with the work I had done in California, so that's why I came here. Yeah, I'm afraid I just don't know how to hide from thugs. Not something I expected.
Well, you're going to still be in the hospital for a few more days before they release you, right?
I would expect a while longer than that.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can speak to Mr. McCracken, or perhaps even Mr. Whitmire has some places that he knows of that would be good for someone to disappear to. Mr. Whitmire does have a habit of disappearing.
That's so, Mr. Whitmire? He's not there, though. So.
See?
Seems
He's
like I'm
disappeared
doing
already.
pretty good.
Oh, for a second, I thought he was there. Forgive me. I don't know what they've given me, but it feels wonderful.
Don't suppose you want to share?
Oh, Dr. Andrews is like, well, I have enough for everybody.
Everybody hold out your arms.
I'll write you a prescription.
Well, gentlemen, I am getting a little tired here, and I feel if I keep speaking, I'm, going to say something really silly. So, perhaps I should rest.
What do you mean by really silly?
I just mean my brain's not. It's doing cartwheels. What do you mean by really silly?
Well, you've described a very traumatic experience, and I wasn't sure if there was something that you thought you saw or that you were unsure of after you had been grabbed and during your ordeal that you believe is silly that might help us either find clues into why they took you or who they might be working for.
Well, they didn't mention. They just said that, they were there on behalf of the prosecution, working this case in particular. And they said that this was the plea bargain that the prosecution was going to put before me in the next couple of days, and that I was advised to take it. And in fact, I wouldn't be leaving their care until I had given, I had made a commitment to that. And I assured them that I am not the one who makes that commitment. It would have to be on Charlie Murphy's, his call, whether he takes a plea one way or the other. But they didn't seem to accept that. So they just kept pressing. I have to say, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, until the Italian got there. But they would just leave me alone for a little while and come ask me some more questions and that sort of thing. So, but what I mean by silly is when that guy was eating my flesh, he did that thing where you put the tips of your fingers to your mouth and you kind of, moi, magnifique, he said at one point. And I don't know why, but that just cracks me up today. And this chuckle that emerges from has a real ragged edge to it.
And it's quite the ordeal. It makes me shiver to my bones to think that someone like that is out there.
Well, I should hope that he got arrested. Have you guys checked the papers? Certainly all that gunfire drew police attention.
Yeah, we meant to while we were eating breakfast, but none of us remembered to tell the keeper that we were going to look at the newspapers.
Yeah, so you get, when he mentions that, you're thinking you had an edition of the Boston Globe that you picked up before you walked into a Lafferty's, and there were competing news stories, but what did take the front page was the shootout at Keys Wharf, where it says a total of 4 men were dead, 1 man arrested, and that there was some strange, that the reporter couldn't get the cops to open up about it, but there was something else that was odd about the whole attack, and he had heard some of the police officer whispering about a cannibal. They're not sure. They couldn't obtain the identity of the man that was arrested in the amount of time they had. And the second story that's competing for front page attention is a supposed strange animal attack on a tram that left 1 man dead. And that's it. It actually doesn't mention anything about a police officer.
Huh?
Although, Monroe, you're thinking he wasn't too far from that portal when it sucked everything in. And if it sucked in a truck, perhaps it sucked in a body.
Yeah.
And so now they'll just be having a missing police officer. So yeah, he says, really, my mind's all over the place. So I think I'll go to sleep now.
Get your rest.
One other thing, if you have any legal concerns while I'm having my stay here, you can go to our law firm and ask for help. They'll look into things. They'll know that your private investigator organization is working on our behalf, and they can kind of aid you in whatever matters you might have. Just talk to one of our associates there. His name's Howard Jenkins.
Jenkins. Okay.
He's a little nutty, but he's a good lawyer.
Oh, did you meet him?
And perhaps in another life.
All right, so we're a little past our time here, so we'll go ahead and call it there for today. And thanks for playing, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will catch you next time. So we go ahead and get some new luck rolls out there, and if you had any skill successes, we'll go ahead and do those too.
Where was that?
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.